All right. Okay. So welcome everyone. Let me get my notes here real quick. Hello everyone and good evening. My name is Amy Randazzo and I am the Children's Services Librarian here at the Ferguson Municipal Public Library. We are thrilled to once again work with the League of Women Voters to provide this candidate forum for the Ferguson-Florissant School District School Board election and give our community the opportunity to hear from the candidates and make an informed decision prior to casting their votes next Tuesday, April 4th. Speaking of Election Day, if you have an absentee ballot that needs to be notarized before it can be turned in, we can help. The Ferguson Public Library typically has a notary public available from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. For evening and weekend availability, please call the library before arriving and do not sign your ballot until you're in front of the notary. Your ballot can also be notarized at the Board of Elections office in St. Anne, as well as the satellite absentee voting sites. For more information on those and any other questions you may have about Election Day, please contact the Board of Elections at 314-615-8683. Now that we've got that little bit of business out of the way, please welcome our moderator from the League of Women Voters, Yvette Kell.
Thank you for that, and thank you for having us. Welcome to the candidate forum for the Ferguson-Florissant School Board. My name is Yvette Kell from the League of Women Voters. I will be facilitating the forum this evening. And I will introduce our candidates here momentarily, but wanted to give everybody a rundown of how tonight will go. So we have our timer, Sue Williams, who is right below me on the screen. I'm not sure for everyone else. But want to thank you for coming tonight and hope that this forum is informative for you as you go to the polls on Tuesday. You will be electing 3 candidates to serve on the school board from the 4 candidates you see in front of you. I will be introducing the candidates as you will see them on the ballot on Tuesday. The format for the forum tonight will be as follows. Candidates will provide an opening statement in order to provide us with information and introduce themselves, and we'll have 2 minutes for their opening statements. We will then move into questions. We did receive just about 28 questions for the forum this evening. Prior to this evening, I will be using those questions to get through the forum. When we are done with all the questions, we will then move to closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each of the questions. Closing statements will be a time for the candidate to provide any closing remarks and or leave us with anything that they feel that was left out during the forum. And they will have 2 minutes to provide those closing statements. Our timer, Sue Williams, will be putting up a paddle that says 30 seconds and stop. And we will allow any thought or sentence to be finished when the stop button hits, but then we'll ask each candidate to end their response at that time. We will not be taking questions during the forum. So if you have any questions outside of the ones that will be asked tonight, please feel free to contact the candidates directly through their social media and web platforms. Or you can put questions into the comment section of the YouTube live stream as it's coming up, and the candidates will be reviewing the live stream comments after the forum, and we'll hopefully get back to you with some information. For all my candidates, I ask that when you are not speaking that you please mute your camera, and if you start speaking and we can't hear you, we'll ask you to unmute. As we all know, this happens a lot, and we like to pretend that we don't all do it, but every single one of us has been caught on a call muting and unmuting at the wrong times. So we will help each other get through this. So again, we thank you for having us here. We do believe that these candidate forums are the best way to get information to the voters so that we can make informed decision and the voters can be as up to speed on the candidates in front of them as they possibly can. As we go through this evening, we will be changing the order of the people that answer the questions. Each question will rotate, and then we're going to start with the way everybody is listed on the ballot going forward, and then we're going to reverse that for closing statements on the back end. So without further ado, we are going to jump in to our opening statements, and we're going to start with Mr. Jamal Bailey. followed by Miss Tiffany Bush, and then Mr. Kevin M. Martin, and finally, Miss Donna Paulette-Thurman. So, Mr. Bailey, I would like to ask you to start your 2-minute opening statement.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jamal Bailey, and of course, we are here because everybody know we're running for Ferguson-Florissant School Board. The Ferguson-Florissant community means a lot to me. It's a community in which I grew up in, a community in which I got educated in, a community in which poured a lot into me. That's one of the reasons why I'm running, because it poured so much into me. Because of this great institution of learning, I was able to obtain my master's, and I'm working on my doctorate degree. Also was able to obtain a football scholarship by being a person that went through the school district. I attended Wedgewood, Cross Keys, and McClure High School, class of 2009. So this community poured a lot into me. The teachers fed me, they took care of me, they given a lot. So this means a lot to be able to use my skill sets and be able to give back into the community that poured into me.
Okay, thank you. Miss Tiffany Bush.
Hey, hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters, for giving us this opportunity to be able to share a little bit about ourselves with the community. And thank you for everybody who might be watching this. So again, my name is Tiffany Bush. I am a current incumbent on the school board. It's my first term is ending. And initially, I decided to run for school board because there were some things going on in the community or going on with our school district that I wasn't very pleased with. And so it just prompted me to really get involved more so in what was going on in my community. I also serve on another board with the city of Ferguson. And so my community means a great deal to me. I love my community. I'm always sticking up for my community. I am a North County girl, born and raised. And I've got 2 students that graduated from McClure. My son graduated last year. Geez, it's been a year already. He graduated last year, and my daughter graduated in 2018. So I really, the community means a great deal to me. And I know that we have some really good people working in our community. And I just want to help to give our students the best possible education they can get from our school district. I just want them to be prepared for life, the life ahead of them. And I just want to see them win. I want to see our community win. And I guess that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin M. Martin.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for the League of Women Voters and the Ferguson Library for hosting tonight, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. And so, as you said, my name is Dr. Kevin M. Martin, and this is my first year I'm running up on the term in Ferguson-Florissant School Board. And why I decided to run again was really, as someone who lives in Florissant now for almost a decade, just under, really as someone who works in education, I see how pivotal and the thriving school district is. And during the first year, we were able to get a strategic plan done. And I really want to be able to live out and see the new strategic plan to see what the impact it could have on our schools and our community to make a difference, because we have some work to do as a school district. If you look at our test scores and other things that are happening in our school district, and I think we're on the right path to hopefully make some improvements to meet our students' needs, to provide a better community outcome, and really thinking through how we can move forward as a district while addressing safety and other concerns, and making sure that our students in Ferg-Flor and the 9 municipalities that are in those districts really have an opportunity for the same as others across the state, and making sure that our students are given equal opportunity, and we're doing right by our students to provide those opportunities to be successful, as we heard from Jamal, as his experience from Ferg-Flor and many other success stories that you hear out there, making sure that we're providing those individual times for kids to be able to be successful and meet the needs of them today, because times are very different than they used to be. So appreciate the opportunity and look forward to hopefully serving on the board again to continue to make sure our schools are safe and making sure we're being innovative in our thought process of providing opportunities.
Thank you. And then rounding us out, pardon me, Dr. Donna Paulette-Thurman. I apologize, I didn't see that earlier.
It's okay. Good evening, everyone. I am running for re-election to the board. Bob and I have lived in this community for 35 years, and we love it. I am a retired educator of 31 years. I also retired from the school district, worked in the district for 15 years, 10 years at Griffith Elementary as principal, and 5 years at Holman Elementary as principal, and also served as an early childhood coordinator. I've also been a special education teacher, a counselor, and other districts. I am an incumbent. I've been in position since 2014. And you want to ask, why am I serving? Why not? I hold education in high esteem. It has afforded me so many opportunities. And Horace Mann cites that education is the great equalizer for men in our society. Education can change a life. It can improve the quality of life. It can lift individuals and families out of poverty. And I want to be a change agent and be a part of that. As a board member, I've served as vice president, president, secretary, and assistant secretary. I've received certification through the Missouri School Board Association at the highest level, which is distinguished. I've also served on the Missouri School Board Regional Executive Committee Chair for School Resources. I serve in other capacities in our community. I'm a board development chair for the Ferguson-Emerson Family YMCA. I am also the ministry chair for the Mothers and Deaconess Board at my church. I love New Sunnymount Missionary Baptist Church. I serve as a youth coordinator and also in chancel choir. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Gamma Omega chapter. I really love your support. I want to continue to serve on the board and promote the importance of quality education for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So our first question, we're going to start with Ms. Tiffany Bush and go on down the road. So our first question, and if you all ever need me to repeat a question, please just say so. I'm happy to repeat a question. Ms. Bush, can you speak to at least one success and one failure that motivated you to become a candidate for the Ferguson-Florissant School Board?
Okay, so one success that motivated me to want to be a candidate this time around. Okay. So one success, what I would have to mention is that the district brought a program where it allowed our students to be able to learn how to fly airplanes. It's called the Red Tail Cadet Program. And it's a really good program. It exposed our students to aviation, the world of aviation. And I really love that about the district. And then the other thing that motivates me to maybe, I don't know if it's a failure, but just needing to do better with our academics, with our test scores and things of that nature. I just feel like we're in the middle of that work trying to improve those things. And I'd like to remain on the board to see it through, to make sure that we do actually achieve those things.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin and Martin?
Thank you. So I would say over the last 3 years, one success has been able to get a strategic plan and get a new updated CSIP, so a comprehensive school improvement plan, which allows our district to focus on goals and thinking about what we need to drive towards with our resources. And one opportunity or mishap, I guess you could say, is making sure we have a better understanding of our finances, to make sure we're aligning our finances to what our goals are and being very clear with how we want to spend our money, to make sure we're providing updated resources as well in our schools.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
Yes. There's so many. One is that we opened our STEAM school. That has been the highlight for me, one of the highlights for me. And also, it's a good thing. And the other part is I'm concerned that we don't have it throughout the entire school district. I really would like to see the same things that we're doing at the STEAM high school and the middle schools at all of our schools. The other things that I'm really concerned about is our suspension rate, and also the fact that our test scores are failing. And so I would really like to work on that. We're number 540 out of 557 schools, and we've got to improve that.
Thank you. And then Mr. Bailey.
One of the driving things that I see was I was coaching football at one of the high schools in the district, North High School. And as I was coaching football, a lot of the students told me that they felt unsafe. A lot of students cried out to me and spoke that to me. And that was one of my driving forces to run around for school board, because when I went to McClure North, I felt safe. It was a safe community. And part of Maslow's theory of hierarchy is the theory of understanding that safety is a need, is a basic need. And if our kids aren't safe, our kids aren't performing, our kids aren't living up to their full potential. And every child deserves a high quality education, and safety is a huge concern, as well as infrastructure. When I went back to my old high school, it was the same infrastructure that has been there since I graduated. And as we know, times are changing, and we have to keep our kids safe. We have to keep this community safe, and our kids deserve a high quality education.
Thank you. We will start this next round with Mr. Martin. The second question is about visibility and being active within the schools and the community. How many of you actually spent time in the school buildings and seen what is going on and have been part and visible to the community as well as the teachers and the administration?
That's a great question. And so one of the things that we did as a board this year is we all got liaisons to different schools so we could be impacting in our schools. So mine are Central Elementary, Ferguson Middle, and Restoration Mark Twain Center. And so I visited all of those schools at least twice this year, and been also to community events at those schools, and also taken the opportunity to attend some sporting events as well at the school events, as well as be in the community throughout, whether it's the back to school fair or other things, to be able to hear and be at different events to hear our teachers. Also, like our recent job fair was at there to meet some teachers and possible applicants to be able to see what's going on in our schools as well. Besides, of course, email accessibility, but trying to be at least our schools that we're a liaison to, as well as we're invited to other schools.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
Yes, I have been very visible in our schools this year. I have 4 schools as well: North, Cross Keys, Wedgwood, and Parker Road, and I have an extra one, Halls Ferry. I've been to the events at all of the schools. I have also, in addition to going to the schools that are assigned to me, I've gone to other schools that have the early childhood programs, because I'm wanting to look and compare the early childhood programs that we have throughout the school district. I think it's extremely important to be in the buildings, to look at the facilities, and also to look at equity in terms of what's going on in each one of our buildings. And all of our buildings look different, and each one of our buildings needs something different. So I think it's important for board members to be visible in the community, as well as not just at the board meetings, but in the schools as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
Well, I visited most of the schools. It's about 2 elementary schools I haven't had the chance to visit. Being an alumni, a lot of the teachers that taught me and educated me are still in the building, which means a lot to me. When I got in there, I got so many hugs and well wishes, and it just meant a lot. It poured into me because they knew how much they gave to me. But I think that, a lot of times as elected officials, we forget that we're for the people. And if we're for the people, that means we have to be a part of the community. And part of being a community is being visible and understanding that it's our duty, because we're elected officials, to be in every school, to be a part of community events, and to build those rapports with everybody, including custodial staff. And we forget that sometimes. So as my platform, that is my goal, is to connect that, because I feel like I'm a liaison between the community as well as the educators, as well as the board.
Thank you. And Ms. Bush.
Visibility. So as Dr. Martin stated, we did kind of divvy up the schools between us this year. And my three, I believe the three is not Ferguson Middle, Johnson Wabash, Berkeley Middle, and Commons Lane. And so I've had an opportunity to visit a couple of those schools. One of them I haven't had a chance to get to yet, as of yet. And then I've also visited several schools that are not on my list, are not assigned to me. And so what I will say is that I really enjoy just getting out there and meeting the teachers and talking to people just frankly, you know, letting them voice whatever concerns they have. But more important, I love to see our students. I love to see them learning. But even in that, you see some of the problems that are in our buildings. And so I believe in being visible. I think that sometimes I feel like when I show up, they might not necessarily, you know, may not know who I am, and that's great. That's fine. But I do enjoy it.
Thank you. All right. We'll start this question with Dr. Paulette-Thurman. And these next several questions are all centered around safety and working with safety and how we are keeping the school safe. So the school safe. First question is, what is your stance regarding discipline for those who continue to violate the student code of conduct?
When students continue to violate the code of conduct, it interferes with the learning in the classrooms. It interferes with teachers being able to teach and other students being able to learn. There's so many things that we can do to help our students who are struggling with discipline in the classroom. We need to give them the resources that we have, our counselors, our social workers, any other support staff who can help students who are struggling. But we also have to make sure that we include our parents and let our parents know what's going on with their child. We cannot continue to suspend kids because of behavior, but we also cannot continue to have students interrupt. So we do have to come up with a plan that's going to be beneficial for the student who is struggling and the students who are trying to learn. So my stance is that we do the best that we can do to support the students who are in those tier 3 areas who are struggling with behavior.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
Well, I'm a strong advocate of social emotional learning. I think that's needed, especially with our population being 82% African American. Social emotional learning helps develop a lot of the soft skill sets that are much needed with our kids, because our kids are hurting. They're hurting. That's why their behavior is the way it is. That's why the teachers feel unsafe. And a lot of teachers aren't equipped with that. So a lot of times in the schools, we're asking our counselors who are overworked to have 50 or 60 kids on their caseload to handle those type of disciplinary issues. But if we adopt a restorative social emotional learning model where everybody's speaking the same language, even our SSROs, that everybody is a part of that restorative community, we'll be able to really address a lot of those needs. And we also need to create community partnerships for our tier 3 students that are struggling. A lot of times we're writing those students off, but it's reasons why. If a student is smoking weed, he may need drug rehab. If a student doesn't have nothing to eat, we need to figure that out. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
Safety. I think that this safety hinges on several different things. For me in particular, it's just creating a stronger partnership with our parents of our students who are causing a lot of issues or disruptions in our schools. I think that's key. I feel like if we're unable to reach that parent, then it's going to be hard to reach that student. the parent, guardian, whoever's in that student's life or who they're residing with. I think that's important. We can't do this work alone. There's no one solution, but I do also believe in holding people accountable. I believe in that too. And so I agree with Mr. Jamal and Donna that there are some solutions out there that we can try and tailor to our district, try to make it fit our students. But I do believe that our parents are crucial in that. We need a stronger partnership with our parents.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
Thank you. So I would say that we need to make sure that we're meeting the needs of each of our kids individually. And we have a lot of issues and needs that are happening in our district. And we need to make sure, whether it's social emotional support, food insecurities, or other things, to make sure we're providing those supports, but also different opportunities for our kids to meet their needs of where they're at. We know we have kids who are struggling to meet expectations in school, which are taking away the learning from other kids. And we need to make sure we're figuring out ways to find programming that meets their needs. Right now, we have a restoration and wellness center for our high school kids, but we know there are kids at younger ages that are needing more supports. And we all know suspensions don't solve the solution. They just remove the problem temporarily. And so we need to get to the root causes of our issues, whether it's identifying lagging skills, other things that kids need to work on to provide those supports. And we're missing some of those supports that are needed, but certainly we need to make sure that we're able to address the behaviors of kids to make sure all kids are able to learn while still meeting the needs of all kids. And so it is a balancing act, because we know suspensions don't work, but also there is a moment in time when suspensions are warranted based on behavior. Thank you.
All right. We're going to start back up at the top. So Mr. Bailey, you will be kicking us off. And this is a specific question about McClure High School. So do you have a plan, or how do you plan on dealing with the recent problems at McClure High School with violent students and teacher walkouts?
Well, I do have a plan per se. I think that we have to readapt the culture within the school. We have to kind of understand what's going on. And from a person that's part of this community, you're bringing a lot of different municipalities into one school, which created a lot of issues. Coming from McClure North, when I went there, and understanding everybody's demographic within the school district, I think will be helpful, because you have somebody that potentially may be on the board that truly understands our community, because I was a part of that community. I think that we have to also understand that our teachers need that full support within the schools. We also have to understand that school specifically needs a lot of infrastructural support, but our teachers have to heal, and we have to give our students time to heal. And we have to support our teachers in that building, as well as our administrative staff as well.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
Could you repeat the question for me, please?
I can if I take myself off mute. How do you plan on dealing with the recent problems at McClure High School with violent students and teacher walkouts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it's gonna take me a while to answer it. But so with the violence that's ensuing at McClure, I'm not okay with our teachers not feeling safe. I'm not okay with staff not feeling safe. And I'm not okay with students being able to do whatever they want to do and speak to our adults however they want to speak to them. So with that being said, it's going to take a solution that, it's hard for me to say. That's a tricky question for me, because like I said, I do believe in accountability, but again, we do need to figure out what the root cause of all of that disturbance is in that school. And again, I'm going to put it back to, the ones who are disrupting. Where are our parents? Where are they? What do you need help with? How can we help you help your student? So, there's a lot in that question. I'm sorry, I couldn't answer it all.
Understood. Mr. Martin?
Okay.
So for me, I would say McClure is not our only school that is having concerns. It's just one that's been highlighted more than others. And so we as a district have to be mindful of what we're doing and what supports we're providing to create a culture and climate that's conducive to learning for all of our employees as well as our students across the district. And one of the things that I think we need is a clear direction for each of our schools and get some climate and culture survey from parents, our students, and our families to get an understanding of what their biggest concerns are, and ask our sole employee, the superintendent, to develop a plan for how to address that. The other thing I would say is we need to examine, which I know I've asked, several of us asked for, one of them being myself. We have not examined our redistricting that we did several years ago to see the outcomes and if it was effective or not, and what the results have been. So I would ask that we examine the redistricting and see if the outcomes have met those goals. And if not, what is our plan forward to readdress and redo what we may need to do to address the situations that are occurring in our schools.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
Yes, and many things have already been mentioned, but I want to go back to culture and climate and having systems in place. Somewhere we missed the mark, and it's not just at McClure, it's throughout the district. And as Dr. Martin said, that one has been highlighted. I think some of the things that we have to make sure that we look at is the safety in our schools, that our teachers feel safe, that we are listening to our teachers. They are the professionals. They're the ones who are in front of our students. We also have to have a high expectation for our students. We're allowing students to behave in a way that, like the dress and social media, our phones, if there's a way that we could get our phones away from our kids, we have to hold our kids accountable. Our leadership has to be held accountable. And as Dr. Martin said from the top, our only employee is Dr. Davis. I do also want to look at the data and look at redistricting and if it really did help us. But again, our kids are hurting. Our teachers are hurting. And if we don't stop the bleeding, it's going to be a bigger problem.
Thank you. So leading with that question into a little bit more, you can build on the answer you just provided as we move into the violence and lack of support for teachers in the school buildings by the current Board of Education and superintendent has caused a lot of teachers to leave the district. What is your plan to recruit, retain, and support future and current teachers as it pertains to safety, but also how are you recruiting teachers? And I'm sorry, and we're going to start with Ms. Bush.
Okay. Recruiting teachers. I think that there are some, It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I think that we have some things currently in place, and I'm sorry, but I'm drawing a blank right now. I can't tell you what they are. I want to say it's not, we've got some things in place to help recruit our teachers. It may be in the terms of monetary value. It may be in terms of, some initiatives as far as education is concerned. But there are definitely some things in the works, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It would, ideally, it would be great if we could get, teachers or people that from the community who love the community who will come in and help our students, help our school district. But it's just not going to be an easy task. I'm not saying it's impossible. We can do it, and there are some things in the works, but it's going to take some non-traditional thinking.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you for that. And so I think our teachers have been leaving at rates higher than before for many reasons, just like other school districts we're facing a teacher shortage, and we must be creative in thinking through what that may be, particularly with other neighboring districts. We're now allowing all people's steps to carry over. We're going to see more teachers who potentially go to districts where they're able to earn that same money. And one of the things I think we need to look at is our class sizes. We know our kids are coming with more social emotional needs than before in maybe other districts, but yet our class sizes sometimes are sitting at 25 to 28 plus. And that creates an issue when neighboring districts have less kids and potentially less social emotional issues that they're addressing because we don't have all the resources. Until a couple of years ago, we didn't even have the amount of social workers we had, and we still don't have enough. I think we only have 6 to 8 social workers currently in our district, which is still not enough to address all the social emotional needs to help our teachers. And so really thinking through of getting class sizes to be able to limit that and help our teachers have smaller class sizes to really get to know the kids, to get to know them well and be able to teach them.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
Yes, that is a very loaded question. One of the things that we have been looking at is looking at some financial incentives for people who may want to join our district. Also looking at different steps, bringing them in on different steps so that will be entice people to come. We need to tell our own story. We need to also make sure that we are listening to our teachers and supporting our teachers as much as we can. We need reading teachers. We need teachers, and we need wraparound services that we don't have in our schools. We need to put less on our teachers' plates. There's so much that they're being asked to do. And before they can learn one curriculum, they're given something else to do, which adds stress to their day and adds stress to them. And we've got to make sure that the teachers know that we are listening to them, not only listening, but that we're hearing them and that we are getting their input and using what they are asking us to do, because they are the experts who are sitting in front of our kids.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
I think that, we have to be honest with ourselves. Every district is struggling with that, especially within like the Ferguson-Florissant School District, the Riverview School District. They're literally miles apart and they're competing for the same pool. Let's say a teacher makes $1,000 more starting off. They'll go to a neighboring district because it's $1,000 more starting off. So we just have to be realistic. But part of the thing that we have to be realistic about is just like as an African-American male picking the right barbershop. Everything is word of mouth. Everything is about marketing. So if I know that my barber, and just using this as an analogy, my barber is one of the best barbers in town, I'm gonna go around and tell that to everybody. So put that into the teachers. If our teachers, if we're finding creative ways to retain our teachers, and our teachers are going around telling everybody this is a top district, this is what we're doing here, it's going to help transform the district. We have to find creative ways to retain the staff that we already have, because that's going to bring more teachers into the school district. Because again, word of mouth is everything. And if our teachers are speaking out and saying that they're hurting, that's going to be crucial in retaining and recruiting teachers within our district.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with Mr. Martin this time around. And while this is safety adjacent, given the risk of online misinformation, cyberbullying, and more, what efforts do you think the school district should make to teach our students about media literacy and how to be good citizens online? And how early do you think students should start learning this information? So I'll repeat it one more time. What efforts do you think the school district should make to teach our students about media literacy and how to be good citizens online? How early should students start to learn this information? And Mr. Martin, we'll start with you.
Great question. I think social media has changed our schools and the way our world operates in a very negative way. And so I think by partnering with parents early on and teaching digital citizenship and how to be a proactive parent or guardian with our kids of what is good digital citizenship, how do you act on social media, what you say on there. I always use the analogy, like back in the day, you used to take a note and you would crumple it up and it would disappear. Now they take screenshots and it never disappears. And so how do we teach our kids at a young age? To me, it's like we need to start when we are providing them technology, which is almost in third grade. Kids are getting technology in third grade, cell phones and that type of thing. So we need to A, give parents advice and tips of how to monitor their kids' social media, monitor their cell phones, electronics, and B, start teaching just basic etiquette and being kind to one another at a younger age. And that involves also about being smart about social media and digital citizenship overall. What you post never disappears. It stays there forever and ever nowadays.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
Yes, social media. I really believe that it's important for us to partner with parents, and even as early as our our early childhood programs, because our kids are extremely bright and they pick up social media probably before they pick up a book. And so because of that, we need to make sure, we need to realize that social media is going to be with us. And somehow we have got to learn how to manage working with our students who are going to be exposed to social media, who are going to use social media, and whose parents are going to use social media. And all of us come together and make a decision on how social media should be used in our schools, how we should treat one another in our schools. And it's not just in social media. We just need to be able to talk to our students about being kind to one another. And part of that comes with in social media and sharing what you share on social media, make sure that it's kind.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
So I'm a firm believer and we have to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that a lot of our parents, it's called technology illiteracy. A lot of our parents have not been educated to use computers. So a lot of times we keep saying that we need to get parents involved. But before the pandemic, we have to call a spade a spade. Before the pandemic, a lot of parents just now started getting laptops and computers and electronic devices within their homes. So we try to put a lot on the parents. We have to understand that the digital thing is not going away. Social media, all of that is not going away. So we have to find, as educators, creative ways to implement those things in the classroom. We have to find ways to connect our parents through those social media platforms and create avenues where we're teaching our parents computer literacy as well as how to address those things. And we also have to understand that we need to bring partners in, community partners, to talk about cyberbullying and those type of different aspects of social media, because those are real things. But the elephant in the room is our kids did not have a lot of laptops and different things like that before the pandemic. And now we're exposing our kids to all of that, and they don't know how to handle that.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
So for me, with our exposing our students to social media, I guess as soon as they're able to get a device and operate one. But I do have to say that as adults, I think it's important for us to be modeling how to respond on social media. A lot of our students are taking these cues from the adults. They're seeing what we post. They're seeing what we got, what we have out there. And so I think we have to lead. We have to really lead and be intentional about leading, be intentional about our efforts. And I also believe that just having our students, when they're aware that something's making them feel a certain type of way on social media, it's okay to turn it off. It's okay to delete the app. It's okay to shut it down. You can always go back to it later on, but while you're feeling whatever you're feeling, get off of it. Log off. Turn it off. Escape the noise. You've got control over that part. You don't have to allow it in your life.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Paulette-Thurman, we're going to start with you on this next question. The type got real small on this one, so I got to pull the glasses out. There has been talk that early education is very important. However, it doesn't feel as if resources are being allocated to early education. Money is continually allocated elsewhere, leaving our youngest scholars behind. How would you make sure the early education, PK through second, and parents as teachers, staff, students, and families are supported, so our youngest scholars are not playing catch up their entire educational career?
As many people know, when I talk in our board meetings, one of the big things that I talk about is early childhood, because early childhood programming is the foundation of education for all of our students. Ferguson-Florissant was on the cutting edge of early childhood years ago, and we need to bring that to the front now. I do believe that some people believe that the babies don't need as much as the older ones do. But if we don't start now, we don't start teaching them now about schooling and social media and about reading and how important it is to be in school, we cannot build on a foundation that's made of sand. So we need a firm foundation. One of the things that I've been doing is making sure that I go to each one of the early childhood programs to look and see what is going on in our early childhood programs. We have awesome early childhood teachers and programs in this district, and sometimes we don't tell our story well enough about our early childhood programs. I'm passionate about early childhood, and I really believe that if we don't start right now putting emphasis on the early childhood program, then we're going to be the ones to fall off in terms of student achievement.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
I think that we have to understand that early childhood is the foundation of everything. So I think that, with that being said, we have to find creative ways. We might have to bring in grant writers and those different things to figure out connective pieces to help us with our early childhood programs. Maybe it's partnerships with the Urban League. Maybe it's partnerships with local churches where our teachers are, again, meeting our parents where they're at. A lot of times we're asking our parents to go out their way, but we have to understand that we have to find creative ways to be in our communities and meet those needs of early childhood and really address those needs so our parents have access to our early child programs, as well as figuring out creative ways to enhance our early child programs.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
I'm sorry, I need you to repeat that question for me again.
Sure. Get the glasses out again. How would you make sure that early education, so PK through 12, and parents as teachers, staff, students, and families are supported so our youngest scholars are not playing catch up their entire educational careers?
Okay, that's a good question. Staff and students are supported. I guess just, being able to really listening to what our early education, our teachers in that program, what it is they need in order to be successful. I know that right now we've got some things were being worked out with our early education program. And I'm happy to, there's some, I think we have a wait list right now, but we're currently rearranging some things so that we can get all of our students in early education. So just making sure that we're listening to what our staff needs, what our kiddos need, what our parents need, and just helping them to meet their needs, whatever their needs are, making sure that we meet those needs.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, you haven't answered yet, right?
No.
Okay. All right. Just making sure I was on the right track. Okay.
No worries. So I think at the end of the day, we all probably agree that starting earlier is better for every kid. We need to make sure that we're starting at a younger age. And that's why parents and teachers, and we were once the leaders in the birth of the parents teachers program, which is so vital to making sure that we're providing that support. I know the board's been in some discussion about expanding our early childhood. And I will say Dr. Paulette-Thurman's been one of the biggest advocates on the board since I've been on there of pushing us to think through that. And so I think we're getting there to expand and we understand the need for it. I know one of the things that I've asked for is how do we partner with Special School District in Hazelwood and others in the region to create centers as we can pull our resources together instead of competing against each other to create state-of-the-art facilities, because we know if we can get our kids at a younger age, they'll be better. And we know it's a region. We know our kids are also transient. So if we address it as a region of North County, that part of North County, we maybe have better results, because if our kids are moving in from other districts where they don't have a strong PK program, we're putting at a disadvantage when they move into our district as well.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bailey, we will start with you again. The next question is about banning books, or book banning that has been happening. Do you think that the Missouri Board of Education should be involved in the book choices for elementary and secondary school libraries for our district, like banning certain titles and/or authors? What are your thoughts on book banning, and how would you have this conversation as a board member?
That's a very touchy question, to be honest with you. I believe that, my personal belief in banning, I don't believe in banning books at all. I believe that kids have to explore, and we have to be able to let our kids explore, because that's the foundation of learning. Reading, Tom Sawyer and those books growing up really had a profound effect on me. So I think that our kids have to be exposed to books that, make them look at the world differently, make them look at the world more inclusively, and be equitable, because all of our kids are coming from different backgrounds. So we have to make sure that the books they are reading identify with them, and we have to be equitable in that aspect. So I don't believe in banning books, because I believe that creates the process of inequality, and we're all supposed to be equitable in everything we do and inclusive in everything we do as well.
Thank you. Ms. Bush?
So yeah, I don't necessarily believe in banning books either. I do think that they should be age appropriate for our buildings. I do believe in that. But I do believe that, it's I don't want to put so much weight on the book itself. I think that a lot of it comes from just being able to, I'm going to say this, the dynamic, with around the family. I feel like no matter what book you encounter, if your family, I don't know how I'm trying to say this in a way without being offensive, but I feel like kids, our students don't have to take all of their cues from books, is what I'm saying. So I don't think it's the book itself that's bad anyway. So I'll just say that I don't believe in banning books as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin?
I think when we get to a place where we start banning things, it creates issues in other regards of where does it stop. I do believe it's important to inform our community and our parents of what we're teaching in our schools and what opportunities kids have access to. But by providing kids choice and voice in the books they're reading is critical, so parents can make a decision if they don't want their child to read something and the kids have a choice in the book. That is a choice of a parent. I think it's important that we have exposure in different topics of books for our kids to be able to explore, to be able to see themselves in, to learn from. And that's what's great about libraries and other things, to be able to have access to that information. And I think it's really important that we are providing information to our families so they have a choice of what their kid can read and help guide their own kid towards certain books that they want them to read. But having access to meet every kid's unique needs and desires and interests is really important to me, to making sure that kids see themselves in the books, but also providing parents well-informed information about what's available in our libraries and what's not, which I believe it is already, and just making sure we're communicating with families and allowing them to have those discussions with kids where they see appropriate versus schools having those discussions, but exploring and pushing our kids to think critically.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman?
Yes, I'm in agreement with all of you. I don't agree with banning books. I do think that children should have choice, and the choice also should be with parents, that parents should have the opportunity to decide what books their students should read. Books, of course, should be age appropriate. If we don't expose our kids to, and especially in our schools, if we don't expose our kids to what's out there in our society, I think that they are going to lose out. So diversity and inclusion can come through books. It can come through sharing ideas with other students who are in your classrooms. And again, partnering with parents, also partnering with our universities, other educational entities who will come out and maybe explain, work with our librarians and talk about what's age appropriate, and also share that information with our parents and with our community.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with Ms. Bush for our next question. As a candidate, how will you promote equality and true commitment to the whole student? What actions will be taken to eliminate racism and the abuse of power from staff members?
What actions will be taken? Oh my God, I'm so bad at this, guys. Sorry with this time. So just being able to, so what actions will be taken? We're going to address our students according to what they need. I don't know that we can lump them all together. I think that it just depends on what our student needs. They have individual needs, and just being able to speak to the humanity in that student, like who that student is, and just addressing those needs. There's a lot I want to say, but I know I'm going to run out of time, and I'm sorry. That's all I got right now.
Okay. Mr. Martin.
Can you repeat the question again for me?
Sure. As a candidate, how will you promote equality and true commitment to the whole student? What actions will be taken to eliminate racism and abuse of power from staff members?
I think that's a great question as we live in an ever-changing world and our dynamics continue to evolve and change. And how do we support our kids as we see the demographic changes, as we got a recent report of 500 less kids are in our district, and we know things are changing. So whether it's through training and support and providing education for our parents and our kids, I think it's thinking through how do we listen to what's going on. I don't think we've done a great job of getting deep diving into the feedback of what's truly going on in our schools from all stakeholders and getting a clear understanding of what's truly the climate and culture to come up with concrete action plans to make sure we can move forward to address those unique needs, because every school in our district is very different, and in making sure that we're working through those bullying and other situations to make sure we are providing equitable treatment for all of our kids, and our kids are exposed to different backgrounds besides themselves, to be able to learn and figure out how do you navigate in a world that is diverse while still getting along and working with, while seeking to understand rather than seeking to judge.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
We've got to continue to have courageous conversations about race. And one of the things that our district has done is we have adopted an anti-racist district standard. We've worked on that for a while, and we're trying to make sure that these anti-racist standards are used in our schools, and that we're training our teachers about implicit bias. We're teaching about social justice, about just making sure that we don't. Well, one of the other things that we're doing is we have an equity committee. I work with an equity committee, and we have conversations around what's happening in our schools and how is it affecting our students and how it is affecting their ability to learn, their social emotional being in schools. This is something, again, as Jamal says, the elephant in the room. We're not going to get around it. We have to work through it. It is what it is, and it is important for us to acknowledge it.
Thank you. And Mr. Bailey.
I think one of the unique things about educators, because I'm an educator myself, I worked a lot of non-for-profit over the years as well. But one of the things is understanding your biases. I think that when you bring other people in, like different people to talk about race and different things like that, we have to understand ourselves, what biases do we have first. And I think that's the key to kind of put everybody on the exact playing field and the exact platform, is understanding what biases we may hold. And once you get an understanding, I think you're able to kind of help others by understanding your own implicable biases. But we have to address those. We have to address the racism. We have to address those issues. But we also have to understand that our kids are growing up in a world where everybody's not going to look like them or be like them. So we have to address that as well. Everybody has to have a seat at the table because everybody deserves a high quality education. But we also have to understand our implicable biases as adults as well. Once we understand that, that kind of helps you deepen those relationships with people, because you can find some common interest with anybody. And I truly believe that it's always some commonalities with people. And we have to teach our kids as well as our adults that that's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next question, we'll begin with Mr. Martin. And this is building off the last question. It was a two-parter. How will you hold the school district as a whole accountable? And how will you address policy that infringes on human rights to education?
I think one of the things, as I said before, our sole employee as a district is the superintendent. And so we do this through having a strong CSIP, again, a comprehensive school improvement plan and strategic plan, which we then hold all of our decisions should be held to the guidelines of that to make sure we have a clear focus of where we're going, which is one of those things, as Dr. Paulette-Thurman talked about, is our anti-racism standards and other things that we want to make sure equitable experiences for all of our kids. And so by holding the superintendent and making sure when we're making decisions, they're aligned to our strategic plan and school improvement plan, it allows us to have a clear focus and making sure we're doing the work that we need to do. I know there's a second part of the question that I wanted to answer, but I'm forgetting it. I know I have 10 seconds left. Can you say that second part?
How will you address policy that infringes on human rights to education?
The school board overall right now is going through a policy revision to align our work through Missouri School Board Association, which would involve feedback from everyone to make sure it is updated, which has not been updated in many, many years, to make sure we're aligned to include and be sure we're treating everyone fairly.
All right, thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman?
I'm sorry. Through policy, we've got to make sure that, as Dr. Martin said, we're going right now, we're going through our policy manual, and we're looking to make sure that there's nothing in our policy manual that is implicit in terms of bias towards other students, anything that's going to cause a barrier for our students to learn. If we apply our CSIP, our MSIP, and also our anti-racist standards to all of these policies, then that should allow us to examine those areas where there may be implicit bias or bias for our students or a barrier for our students. If we don't continue to do this, it's going to affect negatively how students see themselves as learners, and the success of our students and our student achievement. It directly affects our student achievement. So again, through policy and making sure that we as board members ensure that the policy is equitable and fair.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey?
So my undergrad degree is public policy. So I'm all for policy. I do believe in policy, but I also believe with certain policies, it comes potential feelings. And sometimes we just think that everything is just black and white, and it's some gray, especially when it comes to things about implicit bias and different things like that. This is an ongoing conversation. This doesn't need to be just a policy and then it's a one done and we're going to wash our hands of it. We have to continue to have these conversations to build it up, to understand, because there's different things that are coming out. It is kids are changing. So we have to have these ongoing conversations, and it can't just be that we're doing policy and we expect the policy to work for 5 years when education and our kids are transient, education is changing, our population is changing. So these are conversations that we need to keep on having, and not just shaking our hand or washing our hand of it because we create a policy that we think that's going to hold up and be abundant through years, knowing all these different things within education.
Thank you. Ms. Bush?
As a school board member, what I've learned is that governance is our wheelhouse. That's where we have, as a board, our power. And so, if you will. And so for me, I just think that the work that we're currently doing with all of the policy review is going to help immensely. And I also believe that implementation, making sure that we bring the right voices to the table when we start to create those policies, making sure that we have equity of voice, and then also that we align ourselves to our policies, everything that we've created from our strategic plan, that everything aligns and that we're following it. I think that I've learned a lot from being on the school board, but what I do know is that governance policy work, that is our wheelhouse, and it's something that we need to own, and we need to be really diligent about making sure that it's updated, that we review it, and that we're implementing with fidelity.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with Dr. Paulette-Thurman. What is your knowledge of the Parents as Teachers program in Ferguson-Florissant? Is this a program you consider vital to the district, and would you continue to advocate and support in the budget for future years, or possibly increasing funding?
Absolutely. Parents as Teachers is one of the pivotal programs in our early childhood program that helps prepare our students for schooling. It helps our parents. It helps our community. This is a nationwide program that started here in our district, and we ought to be proud of that. This is one of the things that we need to tell our story about, but we also don't need to just rest on our laurels. yes, we need to continue the program. We need to expand the program. One of the things that we should not have is a waiting list for our students to be a part of parents as teachers. And we need to seek out the best teachers, and we have them. We have them right here in Ferguson-Florissant School District. We have a jewel in our parents as teachers program. We are a model. We need to continue to be a model for the country, not just for Ferguson-Florissant. And we need to continue to, we can't just always throw money at things, but we do need to put money into that program, and we do need to support our program,
Thank
our
you.
parents as teacher program.
Mr. Bailey.
I think programs like parents as teachers are crucial to education. My mom was a mother in the district, and I know that my mother was very crucial in my education. So I think that that's a very wonderful thing that this district has kept true, has kept going over through the years. But I also think that with everything, we have to kind of revamp certain things. I think that we also have to look through the understanding of that our parents are different. You're asking our parents to, I always give analogies. One analogy is we asking our parents to come to parent-teacher conferences and support our students, but our parents are working 12 and 13-hour shifts every day. So the way that we're kind of looking at parents and engaging in parents has to be different. So that program has to be revamped to a certain degree, because we have to understand that our workforce is changing. Our parents are no longer getting off at 5 and 6 o'clock at night. A lot of our parents, including my mother, that was a mother within the district, had to work the late shift. So a lot of times she wasn't able to do a lot of things within the school.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
Parents as teachers is it's just an amazing program. I just recently went to a meeting with our parents as teachers staff and everything, and it was just it's absolutely something that we need to continue. We need to recruit more talent into that program. We do have talent already, but in order to service more of our students, I feel like we need more teachers, and our program will be that more effective. But it's an amazing program, and it's something I wish I just learned about. I didn't know about it when I was a young mother, but it is absolutely, I can see the benefits in parents as teachers, and we have an amazing staff that's currently working in parents as teachers. And yes, we need to keep doing that. We need to keep doing the things that we're doing well, continue those efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
Hey, I would say that certainly, as I said earlier, that we need to be mindful of where we're at and making sure we're providing resources for our youngest learners, which start at birth, and making sure we're educating them. So certainly think it's important to provide resources and support to continue those programs and being a model, continue to be a model for that across the state and country in terms of providing parents, teachers, funding and support. And so I would definitely say it's something that we need to continue to do, look at expanding and figuring out how we can get additional people into the program.
All right, so we're going to start again with Mr. Bailey. What is your understanding of the district equity standard and how that impacts students and families that are served by the district?
So my understanding is that every child within the district is substitute to have equity. It's supposed to be equity in everything that we do. That's one of the district's pillars. What I understand from a lot of parent standpoints and a lot of community points is that the district hasn't been holding that policy or standard to full fidelity. So I think that, again, I think that Kevin Martin has stated, Donna has stated those points that things have to get revamped, and we have to not throw resources on it, but figure out creative ways to enhance those type of structures and policies, and really take a look at revamping those things and create governance, as Ms. Bush said, within those policies as a board member.
Thank you. Ms. Bush. You're on mute.
Repeat the question for me, please, if you will.
What is your understanding of the district equity standard and how that impacts students and families that are served by the district?
So my understanding is that, as a district that we are providing equity and access to all. And so now with that being said, I do believe that there are some areas where, we're falling short. We're falling short. And I think that it's, as a district, as a board, as a school board, it's something that we need to continually keep at the forefront. And I believe that work, like we're trying to do that, but it's something that's not going to, switch over overnight. It's going to take us actively doing these things. It's going to take us actively having these conversations, and then, backing those conversations up with actions. And so, and unfortunately, some of the things that we want to see the equity in, it's just going to take some time to get there. So I believe equity, we need to have equity and access for all. We need to have equity of voice, including our student voice. But I do know that we do have some challenges ahead of us, but that we are committed. I'm committed to making sure that we see it through.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Martin.
Can you repeat the question one more time again? You're muted, just to let you know.
See, we almost made it a full 90 minutes without any of us doing that. And now we're starting to do it like one right after another. What is your understanding of the district equity standard and how that impacts students and families that are served by the district?
So I think it's been something that we have not lived out fully, that we need to figure out how to live out in a more full way. And we have something, we've referenced it, but we don't necessarily haven't figured out how to incorporate it into all of our actions and decision making fully. And one of the things I know we've talked about as a board currently, Tiffany and Donna and others, is so how do we incorporate that into our policies? How do we make it a policy? How do we incorporate it into our handbooks? How do we incorporate it into our evaluations? How do we think through more widely about actually putting some teeth behind what that policy and resolution actually says? And so I think as a district, we have a lot of work to still do. And as a board, we have work to do on our level of making sure it's being incorporated and held accountable, and not just a piece of paper, but living out in the actions within our schools and community.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman.
Yeah, we do. We have an equity resolution, and it's a lot of pretty words. How do we put those pretty words in action? One of the things that we apply to our equity resolution is looking at our guidance for looking at it, our information in our schools through an equity lens. So if we look through an equity lens, we ask certain questions about, how it's going to affect students in terms of their achievement. And so one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that when we look at it through our equity lens, that we're not creating any barriers for our students, and that we are making sure that there's access for all students, not just some, whether it's academic, whether it's a food shortage, whatever it is that the student needs. Equity doesn't mean that everybody gets the same thing. Equity means that everybody gets what they need in order to succeed. And that's what we need to do. And that's what we need to apply. And yes, we have more work to do.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to give you a minute to collect your thoughts as we head into closing statements. And this should be a pretty up-down kind of question. Why is it, and we'll start with Ms. Bush, why is it acceptable and allowed to have students that do not meet the grade requirements be promoted?
That's a real good question. Why is it accepted? Why is it allowed? That falls on, that falls on us. It shouldn't be accepted and it shouldn't be allowed, because we do our students a disservice when we're not honest with where they are and just trying to pass them along. We shouldn't be doing that. I'm not sure about the rate at which that occurs, but I do disagree. I don't think it should be happening at all. And we need to do something or implement some sort of policy that would discourage that practice, that we wouldn't see it anymore.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
I would say that we need to continue to explore and make sure that we're thinking through, like Ms. Bush said, kind of the policy pieces and making sure that we have practices in place, but also reporting systems to be able to investigate when things are happening, to be able to address in a timely manner, to make sure we're able to think through, identify issues and then address them with solutions, and not just wait and have something on paper, but really thinking through what are our systems in place for reporting and addressing and enacting.
Thank you. Dr. Paulette-Thurman?
Yeah, when students fail, I think teachers feel that they have failed. Retention doesn't always work. I'm not sure what the real answer is, but if we retain students and we do the same thing that we did with them the last year, how are they going to progress? So I think we need to look at the data. We need to look at what we're doing with students. We need to look at wraparound services, support services. One of the biggest things that I think that we need to do is get our reading teachers back, because our students truly do need that support from reading teachers. So it's a shame that so many of our students are failing, and there's so many other things that have affected why our students are failing, and the epidemic did not help. So again, we just need to find ways to support our students, and whatever that is, we need to do it.
Thank you. And Mr. Bailey?
I think I agree with everybody. I was a product of that No Child Left Behind. I think that we also have to understand that a lot of times within education is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We have to understand that things are a case-by-case approach, especially with our kids. And we're asking our kids, just like when I was in school, they took away writing. So when I got to college, I struggled a lot with grammatical stuff because they took it away. And that was in the Ferguson-Florissant School District where they took that away. And that was a hindrance when you got to college because you didn't understand how to correctly write a paper. But that doesn't mean you were less of a student. That just means that the district or policy at that time was put in place to kind of make things unequitable. So we have to look at education as not a one-size-fits-all approach, and things have to be a case-by-case type of approach with our kids, because our kids have to have those different tiers of support in place, whether it's reading, whether it's food, basically really addressing the Maslow's theory of hierarchy to make sure that we are creating all of our needs for our children to be successful, thriving adults.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to give you guys a minute to think about your closing remarks. If there's anything you feel you didn't put out there or what you want to leave the audience with as we end the forum this evening. The one thing I will say is there were a couple questions that I didn't get to that very much revolved around accountability. So if you can address accountability of not only the school board, but of the school administration in your closing remarks, I believe that would be very much welcomed. And there are a few questions that I wasn't able to get to this evening. Please feel free to reach out to the candidates directly or to put them in the comments of the YouTube comments chat, and they will hopefully get back to you and give you some of their feedback on said questions. And then for everybody out there who's listening, watching, we get out and vote. Voting is April 4th. If you need any information, you can always go to the League of Women Voters website. If you have any questions about what is going to be on your ballot, you can go to vote411.org, and that will have everything that is going to be on your ballot on Tuesday. It also has information about any measures or legislation, as well as the candidates. We appreciate you all being here tonight and listening to the candidates. I want to say thank you to all the candidates for being here this evening. We appreciate your time and your willingness to stand and serve your community. So at this time, we're going to start with Dr. Paulette-Thurman and work our way back the other way. So Dr. Paulette-Thurman, please take it away. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to share my passion about our community and our children. And they are my why. The children are. Christ tells us that we are to love one another and to serve each other. And service is my ministry. An East African Maasai tribe places high value on the well-being of students. They usually greet each other with, "How are the children?" And when the children are doing well, so goes our future. So how are our children? Let's be courageous courageous enough to truly examine the well-being of our children right now. And I mean all of our children. And based on the evidence before us, the resounding response is that we're not doing really very well right now. This meaning that this is going to affect our future and their future. Our schools are failing because we're failing to provide our children with what they need. We are in crisis mode right now. We are all culpable. Elected officials, administrators, teachers, parents, faith leaders, and until we stop pointing the finger and blaming each other and come together with a common goal, and that is to do what is best for all our children and to not have a personal agenda, we're going to continue to fail. What are we going to do about it? We need a radical movement to address discipline and decorum and teacher retention, teacher stress, suspension rates, social media, cell phones, state demands, apathy for education, trauma, mental health issues. If we don't come together with a common intentional focus, then we're going to all fail. I believe that we can do it. I want to be a change agent, and I want a thought partner to improve our student achievement and well-being. I will continue to ask the difficult questions and hold myself accountable as well as others in improving our schools. Our children are worth the time. Will you help me? I humbly ask for your support at the polls on Tuesday. Please give me your 3 votes. If not 3, 2, if not 2, 1, if not 1, at least go and vote. And thank you so much for listening tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be here tonight. And I'll say that for me, it's really important that we have thriving schools for a thriving community. And we as a community need to come together and be accountable for each other. And what I mean by that is, as a school board member, it's our responsibility to make sure our sole employee, which I've said several times tonight, the superintendent, is living out and holding himself or theirself accountable to the goals that we've set. We need to be listening to our community to know what our community wants in our district, to be able to set goals that are measurable and attainable for our superintendent. And when they are meeting them, celebrate that. And when they aren't meeting them, ask questions, adjust plans, and if not, hold accountable in other measures. And really thinking through, how do we get to know information about what's going on in our schools? I go back to, we still need a climate and culture survey to get a full understanding of what's going on at all levels and all layers of our organization, from our parents, our guardians, our community members, our students, our teachers, our custodians, our bus drivers, our secretaries, our operations staff, to really get a clear idea of what's going on. Yes, I've been on the board for less than 3 years because of the COVID year. I didn't get the full 3-year term, but certainly I have to hold myself accountable for the actions that we did. I think over the last 3 years, I've asked tough questions, drawn our meetings to make them longer. Sometimes by talking too much, but by asking those questions to get better informed and to make sure the community knows what's going on. And I think we need to be holding ourselves accountable, holding our superintendent accountable, but also listening to what's going on in our schools and making sure we are developing plans that are responsive in that nature, but also making sure we're visible in the community. And I will go back to, I think we need to be accountable for our redistricting that we did and explore what options we did and how outcomes are based on the results that we've had for several years now. And I hope that you support me on April 4th on number 1 on the ballot. Certainly, I would take all 3 votes, all 1 vote, but importantly, like Dr. Paulette-Thurman said, voting is the most important thing in acting that civil right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bush.
Thanks again for this opportunity, League of Women Voters, Ferguson Library. Really appreciate you guys. And thank you to all the community members, everybody that chimed in, asked questions. And I just want to say that, you know, I have lived in this community since 2006. I've been here for about 17 years. And I love my community. I mean that. And I believe that when our schools are strong, our community is strong. And so it's something, you know, in order to strengthen our schools, it's something that the board can't do alone. It's going to take everybody partnering together, working together to come up with solutions, all of us. everybody's going to have to chip in this one. And so, but again, as a board, we hold ourselves accountable. We hold our staff accountable, cabinet, everybody is held accountable. No one gets to, squeak past without the questions being asked. Well, how did this happen? And why did this happen? And, everybody is, under the same microscope, if you will. And so, just to, make sure that remind everybody to vote on Tuesday, April 4th. I appreciate your support. But I just can't say it enough that I do love my community, and I'm willing to work, to volunteer, do whatever I need to do my part in helping to improve our schools and our community.
Thank you. And Mr. Bailey.
I think that, we have to realize a lot of times in life that the whole objectivity of education is to have people come back to give back to the institutions that gave to them. You have to have people that grew up in the community that truly understands the community needs, still have a lot of kids and mentor kids within the community, still have a lot of teachers to help bridge that gap between the community, the board, and the school as a whole. And I think that I'm the right candidate to be able to do that because I fit all those areas and those criteria. I also think that this community needs healing. And part of healing is the understanding that we all have to bring people from the table, but you also have to understand that you have to bring people from the table that truly understand the needs of the community because they were a part of the community. This institution educated me. This institution made me who I am. So I'm able to go back with the skills that I learned and the skills that I obtained to come back and really help transform. Because it's a Jamal right now at the school that I know nothing about that is waiting on me to come back to help, that is waiting on me to be able to look up to say that I can come back and give to my community, just like Jamal E. Bailey did when he came back to serve on the board. I always truly believe that education is the foundation of life. And the better our schools are, the better our families are. The better our families are, the better our communities are. And the better our community is, the better our region is. We have to understand that it's not just local, it's about our region. We have to compete for jobs. We have to compete for institutions. We have to make people want to be within our region to help make sure our regions are thriving. So if you find it in your heart April 4th to vote for me, please understand that I'm from this community. I'm fully vested, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure accountability, to ensure transparency, and ensure direct change, because Jamal E. Bailey is a change agent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I'll turn it back over to Amy and have her do what she needs to do here.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. And thank you, of course, to the League of Women Voters for moderating our forum and to the candidates. And please just go out and vote April 4th. If you know of anybody who missed the forum tonight, this video will be on the Ferguson Library's YouTube channel. When you search for us, make sure you look for our round green logo. There's 2 Ferguson libraries in the country. So yes, please go out and vote, and thank you all and have a good evening. Great. So thank